Prislovic keeps it alive. Oh, Crawford, the fancy footwork and a fabulous finish.
Jack Jumpers chance. McVeigh, 2 on the clock. Oh! McVeigh!
And have a look at what it means to Scott Roth. Bloody good. How good. These Jack Jumpers. They just never say die.
Welcome to the Tasmanian Takeover for another week. This is your Tasmania JackJumpers podcast for fans, by fans, brought to you by the Basketball Fix. And we've got a very, very special episode tonight because we're actually doing our first interview on the podcast. But before we introduce you to our guest, we're just going to leave you hanging for a moment. JD, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, mate. I'm very excited for this one. Going to ask the hard-hitting questions, this will be good.
Absolutely, although I'm a little bit worried whenever you say you're going to do anything hard-hitting. And unfortunately, hopefully not unfortunately, the person who we are going to be throwing the hard-hitting questions to is Sam Armstrong, head coach of the Northwest Thunder and Wynyard Wildcats legend. How are you, Sam?
Yeah, I'm good, guys. How you guys going? Thanks for having me on.
Nah, more than welcome, mate. We're looking very much forward to this and finding out a little bit more about yourself and what's going on with the Northwest Thunder as we're about to get into the NBL 1 season. And look, I'll put it up front. I am a Hobart Chargers fan, so, there could be a little bit of ribbing here, but I do respect what's going on up in the Northwest and the way the boys are going up there. But let's get into it a little bit with talking about yourself, and then we'll get in there and talking about the team and the plans for the upcoming season. So I suppose the first question I've got is, you've just signed a 2-year deal as head coach for the Northwest Thunder. So having come off the back of that, how'd you get here? Give us a little bit of a spiel about yourself and your career to this date.
Yeah, look, I was a Wynyard Wildcat junior. So I started my time over at the Wynyard Wildcats, and I remember as an early primary school kid, going along on Tuesday nights to watch the NWBU, and when the American imports and all that flavour started to come out to the Northwest Coast, and fell in love with the game at that point. And obviously having an older brother who was 3 years older than me, he sort of dipped his toes in the water a little bit, ahead of me. So I just sort of found a bit of a love for the game following him around, and got to sort of 15, 16 and started playing senior men's basketball with Wynyard, and spent a heck of a lot of time there over the course of 2 decades, and had a lot of success through that period as well. And then that sort of branched out into playing Siebel, which is NBL 1, which was Siebel back then, and so they sort of coincided with each other back at that time. So really from sort of about 1997 onwards, I was involved in both Siebel and NWBU. And then, 20 years later and 1,000 games almost between those two leagues. And then
Unreal.
time was up. So moved into the coaching front after that. Always had a bit of a passion for coaching, and had... we'll probably speak about a little bit more, but had Mark Radford come on back up in Wynyard in the late 90s, and he was probably the coach that probably fueled my desire to maybe move into coaching post playing, and all just took shape from there. He's been a mentor ever since, and so when the playing career finished, moved into coaching, and that's where we are right now.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So how'd you find the transition moving from playing to coaching? Because, I suppose it'd be a little bit like, you want to get out there on the court yourself and be like, boys, let me show you how it's done. But how do you hold yourself back and make these guys accountable and get them to do what you need them to do?
Yeah, well, look, it was a challenge. It was a challenge to start, and I did. Back in 2009-10, I actually player coached at Siebel level, which was, sort of unheard of at that stage, and had a couple of assistants along with me. So I was actually trying to do both back then, and it sort of didn't work very well. I realised at that point I couldn't have, a foot in each side of things, and so after that, finished playing in sort of 2014 and 15, and then moved heavy into the coaching side of it then, and I think for me, I had a few issues with my body late in my career, so it was sort of organic that I knew my time was up, probably playing. So, that made things a little bit easier. It wasn't like I felt like I needed to come back and keep playing and on and on. I made a pretty distinct decision back then to move into coaching, and, I was pretty happy with it, up until now.
Perfect.
After 1,000 games, I'm not surprised. I was surprised you can walk now. At what point did your body start to give out? Was it the 600, 700 game mark? So many games.
Yeah, look, we didn't quite get to 1,000, but I was pushing them. I think it was like maybe just under 500 with Wynyard and just under 400 with the Thunder. So, look, it was up there.
Unbelievable.
But I had a lot of issues with my body. Had an arthritic hip. I've actually had a hip replacement since I've retired. So it took a lot of toll. So I played through a lot of years in a bit of pain and, just done some dumb stuff and kept on playing probably when I shouldn't have and, trying to keep the dream alive a little bit. But yeah, through those injuries, it probably, like I said, probably led me to go, hang on, time's up. I want to move into this other facet of basketball now and very happy that I did.
Brilliant. Let's dig in a little bit deeper about Mark Radford. So obviously he's highly respected now as an assistant coach for the JackJumpers, and don't want to make this all about the Jackies, but of course it'd be great to know a little bit more about Mark and your time with him, and how do you guys get along? And you said he's a bit of a mentor for you. Like, what have you taken away from his mentorship?
Yeah, look, he was someone that come on to our program. Like I said, he coached our the first Wynyard premiership that I was involved in back in 1997. Obviously he played basketball, but come from a heavy football background. But he was someone that sort of was always a bit of ahead of his time up here with the coaching stuff. Took it really professional, and prior to coming on with us, he'd actually spent a couple of years or a couple of months over in the US, going through some college programs with basketball and just upskilling himself and, doing his own personal development. And he come back in at that point, and I think he injected all that enthusiasm into Wynyard. It was something we hadn't experienced before. This whole different environment of professionalism and, our style of play, everything was just different to what was happening at that point in time. So, we grew to be friends from that point on, and we've been friends, ever since that day, basically. But he went from a coach, and then he obviously went away and did a couple of different things, but he was heavily involved with our program at Wynyard, for quite some years. He played a little bit, filled some gaps and played, but he was the coach there, and then rolled over. I think it was back in 2000 and took the reins of the Thunder program for a couple of years as well. So he coached me through that period as well. So yeah, he's always been a heavy influence. Obviously, he was in my playing career, and obviously as time's moved on, he's been a real mentor on the coaching front. And obviously, through his time with Basketball Taz, and he's always a guy that's been happy to share, and debrief. But he's been a close friend, so he's always been a phone call away, and he's helped me through and got me through to my coaching where I am now as probably the main mentor in that, in that space for me. So he's been invaluable in a sense.
Brilliant. And thinking about your coaching style a little bit, I wouldn't know the first thing about coaching anyone, but one of the things I've really enjoyed since the Jackies have come along is listening to Roffy talk about how he doesn't see himself as much of a coach, more of a leader. How do you see your coaching style, and are you more about the X's and O's, or more about rallying the troops and getting them to buy into the system?
I think probably early days I was too over passionate with it, and that was probably some of the playing side coming out of me, and probably tried to coach too much of the detail and just way too competitive. And I think as time's gone on, I've tried to focus on the balance a little bit more. And it's always about the team that you've got in front of you as well. So if you can recruit guys that are very capable in a sense, then you don't have to overcoach. So I've sort of think I've moved more into being more of a player's coach now. You know, I'm a little bit more relaxed. I still get a little bit heated at times. I think that's just natural. But you know, I think I did start out a little bit, probably too much of a dictator, and now probably moved into more just being a little bit more relaxed and enjoying it for what it is, and enjoying the guys. And you know, at NBL 1 level, there's really capable guys, so you know they don't need to be heavily coached at times. You know, they just need someone that can keep the ship steady, you know, and just make sure everything's going in the same direction. So that's probably more of what it looks like currently.
Excellent. Well, this actually probably leads into my next question around the 2025 team. It's looking very strong for the Northwest Thunder. So what direction are you going in to build this team, and what decisions have you had to make? And I'm sure you don't want to give away all the industry secrets, but you've pulled together a pretty strong team there, Sam. So can you give us any insight into your thinking?
Yeah, look, I come back on as an assistant coach after stepping away for 4 years back in 2023. To Nick Hayward. It was, you know, at that stage, we sort of have a conversation about me coming back on board, and I really got the passion back for it then, and obviously took the reins back over last year, 2024, and you know, after having some time away, I just realised how good the league had got. You know, that's the biggest thing that stood out to me at the start, was it's just improved so much. It goes from strength to strength every year. The talent level is you know, is really, really good and only getting better year to year. And I think after our season, you know, we sat down as a club, and once I knew I was going to go around again, and you know, the club are happy to have me on board, so I was really, really keen to take a 2-year deal on. I really wanted to sort of anchor myself here for a couple of seasons and really try to build something. And I think the thing is, for us, we sat down as a club and said, look, we've got to a point where we don't want to be in the quicksand of that middle portion of the ladder anymore. You know, it was time for us to have a red hot crack at it, you know, and try and see if we could be a whole lot better in 2025. So that sort of started the recruiting drive. And in saying that, I'm really passionate about the Northwest Coast and the local contingent that we've got here on the coast, obviously. So, you know, to get the guys that we've got on board and we've been able to sign this year, but knowing that, you know, a large percentage of those guys are actually born and bred here on the Northwest Coast is, you know, that's fantastic. You know, so that's first and foremost, it's me about trying to recruit really good basketball players. But when they've grown up in your own backyard here, which a lot of these guys have, then, you know, that's been sensational for us to bring back some high level talent. And you know, obviously a couple of guys affiliated with the JackJumpers program, but just some guys that have gone off and done some other things in their basketball careers, then been able to come back and be part of our Thunder program for this year. So, no, really excited by the team that we put together, and yeah, we're just looking forward to March 29 and roll it out and see how we go.
It's something I wanted to ask you about, Sam, about the Northwest Development Program. I've got a couple of names here that I was doing a bit of research through the week. Guys like Kai Savage, who's at the Bullets, Lockie Barker, who's with your system, Rain Smith and Jacob Furphy are over in the US college system. Taran Armstrong's just been accepted into the NBA. What's in the water up in the Northwest Coast? Where are you getting all these elite basketballers from? It's unbelievable.
Oh, look, it is. And, you know, I've had this conversation with some people quite recently, and, you know, and in the past as well. It's in a really healthy state. You know, it's, you know, I think it's a really passionate basketball, you know, area of Tasmania, and always has been on the Northwest Coast here. And, you know, they're passionate. The individual clubs up here are passionate about player development. There's obviously some good programs in place with the basketball Tas side of things as well. And but yeah, why exactly, you know, that amount of numbers come from such a small area up here? Look, it's really hard to put your finger on that. But yeah, obviously currently right now the level of talent that's out there, some of them names you mentioned there before, right down to Taran, obviously, that is the first ever Tasmanian to be, you know, to play in the NBA, is just something that's unbelievable and really hard to fathom. But you know, it's a heartland for 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 talent up here, and obviously, yeah, it's a great place to be as part of the Thunder when you've got all access to most of this talent. Not all of those guys, obviously, but there's guys that underpin those guys as well. There's some really talented young locals up here on the coast as well.
I actually wanted to ask you a bit about Taran. Obviously, there's a bit of a family connection there. What's that like? What's the town of Wynyard? What's your family? How are you all feeling at the moment? You must be just over the moon. I imagine there's people cheering in the streets in Wynyard.
Yeah, look, mate, I got a text message from my brother at about 6 a.m. on Monday morning, just before the news broke, and it was like, I think we all thought we understand Karen's capability. Taran's capabilities and what he was striving for, but when it actually is something that's a real thing right now, it just blew us all away. It's been a crazy 48 hours up here. It's been surreal in a sense, and not surreal that he doesn't deserve to be there, because that's exactly where he needs to be. Like, he's done that work, so it's not surreal in that. It's surreal that it's actually here now and it's real. Yeah. So, look, we caught up with him last night. He come over to the Wynyard game, locally last night, and it was to just know that in a little suburban rural basketball stadium in Wynyard, there's an NBA player standing right in that stadium. So, look, it's crazy. He took off today though, like he's all business, and that's the nature of the NBA right now. So it's cutthroat. It's down to business now, and he's on a plane and he's headed over to California. So that's unreal. That's how quickly things can happen in 48 hours in the nature of that business. So he's prepared. He's ready to go. He's got huge family support. Obviously, Ben and Melanie's parents, obviously, we're really close with them, but he wouldn't have got to this stage without that really close family connection that he's got, obviously. And, but he's got a huge support network, and now he's got his opportunity, and that's what it's all about. So I'm sure knowing Taz that he'll go and take care of business and put himself in the best possible position he can.
We'll be watching pretty closely. Him and Steph Curry in the same lineup sounds pretty enticing to me. All right,
crazy.
Hey, I want to ask you about a bit more about his brother Trey. He was almost a jack jumper, whether it was last year or a couple of years ago. I just wanted to know, has Trey still got the fire in the belly to go to the next level, and maybe we'll see him in the NBL again soon?
Yeah, he does. He does. Like he was right at that stage. He was coming out of the college system, been heavily involved, as per Taran had been in basketball since they were, early primary school, these boys. So dedicated a heck of a lot of their life to it. And at that stage, he had some other things going on in his life. He's had a fiance, and at that stage with the Jack. Yeah, all little different things, like real life stuff. And for him, I think there was an opportunity to go away and just do some different things and experience some different things in his life. And, so that's what he wanted to do at that particular time. And he's certainly come back from that trip and, overseas, totally refreshed, and played with us last year at the Thunder. And, he was my first signing again this year. So, really keen, still only young, only 25 years old, so still got plenty of basketball ahead of him. And, he's really passionate in that space too, but sort of grown a little bit of a passion too for coaching now as well. Like, he's taken on the head coaching role at Wynyard in the NWBU. And so just trying a few different things while he can. And, but passionate about that. But yeah, he's still got the fire in the belly though to make it as far as he can with his basketball, for sure.
Yeah, great. And how have you seen that sort of that Jack Jumpers influence? Because you've got quite a number of guys who have experienced that NBL level program in the team again this year. How have you found that having the boys in those programs has sort of benefited the Thunder?
Oh, look, unbelievable. And I think
Yeah.
I think the difficult thing was for us down here in Tassie is prior to the JackJumpers coming on was the hardest thing was recruiting and, trying to get, and it's not so much imports, trying to get high level Aussie talent, if we didn't have access to the talent we were speaking about before on the coast here and they're up and gone and playing somewhere else, then trying to get Aussies to come down and leave mainland Aussie to come down and play in Tassie was just difficult. So obviously with the JackJumpers coming on board, then that added like a tangible piece to basketball here in Tasmania, and so that sort of and their success so early also sort of just got the focus so hugely on Tasmanian basketball, and that sort of it's been invaluable. When you look at I guess the perfect example for us is someone like Archie Woodhill, who I recruited last year to come down to play with us at the Thunder. He was living in Sydney, had a real ambition to want to make it to the next level and get back in the NBL system, and comes down here and plays with us. He's under the eyes of the JackJumpers coaching staff. Has a really solid NBL 1 season and gets himself a DP spot that he's now added 2 more years onto. So, look, there's a genuine pathway here now. So, I guess that's the biggest tangible for us is that we've got a high-level NBL program in our state with 3 coaches and a program that make everything really accessible to clubs underneath them. So when you're trying to recruit people and you say you've got an NBL program on your back doorstep, then, that's exactly what you've got right now, and then we've, like I said, Archie's probably the linchpin in regards to how it may look going forward for different players if they're good enough to get to the next level.
Brilliant. You must have read my question, Sam, because I'll tell you what, you've just about nailed the question I was about to ask about the growth of basketball in Tasmania, and I really love the fact that you've talked about the fact that we now have a great pathway into the NBL. As someone who has been in the system for quite some time, from playing as a young bloke right up to coaching, actually, this is probably a real life situation for myself. Young daughter, keen to get involved in basketball, never played, much myself except on the half court. Where do I start in Tasmania, and how does that pathway progress right up through to NBL 1 into potentially getting picked up by the NBL and onwards?
Yeah, I think it probably starts back now. There's so much focus on the grassroots side of things now, right down to entry level may just be that you're involved in a basketball clinic at your local school. And then someone from Basketball Tas or a JackJumper is available, and they come in, and that's where the passion grows for this type of thing. And obviously, I know I can only speak for the Northwest up here, but there's obviously, you go through the local roster system, you find yourself a club. There's so many clubs that are, you can pull on and knock on the door on and ask a few questions of people and see what's out there. And then, junior basketball has never been so alive in Tasmania right now. So numbers are through the roof, and, I think the biggest problem is infrastructure right now. And,
yes,
as was spoken about last week here in Tassie. But I think, going back to your question, I think there's access to a lot of basketball, and it's everywhere. So it's just a matter of linking up with a local club, finding the passion for it in a local roster somewhere, and then trying to get into play rep basketball, and then it just sort of grows from there. It's not everyone will go on and make development programs and things like that. Some will do it for the fun of it. That's what it's all about. But I think that's been another one of those tangible things with the JackJumpers. They've just created so much interest that at the entry level grassroots that it's just thriving in a huge capacity right now. So look. Tell her to keep on going, mate. Go and get after it, and I'm sure some good things will happen. It's a great sport to play, so
absolutely.
The kids love it right now, so it's a great thing to be a part of.
Absolutely, it's so good seeing the young ones out there repping the various different jerseys. It's actually nice to see them repping an Australian team as opposed to all the US stuff. Nothing wrong with the NBA, but it is nice to be able to walk around and see the jerseys of the local teams. I'm particularly loving that even some of the local clubs, the jerseys are out there for the local clubs, which is nice. So, yeah, really glad to see that. All right. Well, as we start to come to a close, it'd be remiss of me not to sit there and get a little Hobart Chargers G up in here. So Saturday, March 29th, the Northwest take on the Chargers at Harcourt Stadium. When did you just change the name up there?
It changed we had a new sponsor come on board maybe about a month ago. So,
wow.
Yeah, fantastic for us. Went from Mazda over to Harcourt.
Yeah.
So, yeah, got some fantastic local support up here and
Awesome.
new naming rights sponsor for our stadium, which is fantastic.
All I can say is thank God I did my research, because I'm sitting there, I wrote Mazda down as the stadium and went, whoops, that's a bit out of date now, so well done. All right, so if I recall correctly, we had one each way last season. How do you reckon you guys are going to fare against the mighty Chargers this season?
Yeah, I think it's I think both clubs are in a bit of a phase of change. You know, we've got a completely different group, and you know, I didn't name drop too many of our players there before, but I will quickly now, like a Lockie Barker or a Kai Savage and Archie and these types of guys. Look, we've got a couple of mainstay pieces from last year, but we've got a new group, and then obviously with the Chargers, with Stewie stepping away, and then with Weeksy coming on, you know, they're in the ultimate phase of change right now. So look, they're a little unknown for us. You know, we probably got our recruits out a little earlier than those guys, so they've probably got Weeksy's been able to have a really good look at our group. But you know, they've got a couple of key pieces down there, obviously with big old Angus Stein and Richo, Jacob Richards. So, you know, I think both clubs are in a really healthy position, and that's what it's all about. You know, I think Stewie used to drive the rivalry better than anyone else, obviously from the south, and try and turn it into something bigger than what it was. But we always love playing Hobart. You know, it's great for Tassie basketball. You know, ultimately what we want to do is see both teams succeed, so we both stay in the league as long as we can, and that's what it's ultimately all about. But there's always a bit of extra spice when you play the Chargers, no doubt. So, look, hopefully to get them on our home floor to start on March 29 gets us off to a good start, and we can start our season really well. But we'll be as prepared as we can. But you know, they're obviously going to be led very well by Weeksy and the program that he's been involved with down there at the JJs. So they'll be extremely well organised, and he'll recruit a good team. So yeah, we're looking forward to the challenge come the end of March.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it myself. I really do love the derby games, and you get a lot of bums in the seats, which is fantastic. And yeah, you can really feel the spice in the air. It's exciting stuff.
I watched a video
Sam, thank you
through
very
the
much.
week, Berto. I watched a video through the week from 2011. They called it the Basket Brawl, where all hell broke loose between the Chargers and the Thunder. It was good. It was good watching. You weren't involved in that at all, were you, Sam?
No, I wasn't. I pretty quickly found out about it that night. I was up here on the Northwest Coast when it all happened, but no, I wasn't involved in that. But that was when it was at its spiciest, I think. So yeah, it's things are relaxed a little bit more now. So I don't think we'll see any of that come March 29.
Well, Sam, thank you very much for spending some time with the Tasmanian Takeover. We've really appreciated it, getting your insights as to the Northwest Thunder, what's going on up in the Northwest, and just your thoughts on the basketball scene in general. So thank you very much for spending some time with the two of us.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, well, make sure you do continue to keep liking and subscribing to all the socials. The Basketball Fix is your place to go, thebasketballfix.com, for all your NBL insights. And they've now got the new tracker for what's going on in the free agency period, so go and check that out as rumours are going in. We're throwing it up, and hopefully we'll be more on the ball than what the NBL are, which will be fantastic. And of course, do keep an eye on the socials for what JD and I are up to during the off-season. We've got a couple of interviews lined up. We've got a special show lined up where we're going to rate and rank and carry on about the JackJumpers. And of course, as NBL 1 kicks in, I cannot help but jump on a mic and talk about it. So looking forward to that. Thanks very much for tuning in. JD, march on.
March on, Berto.
Doyle makes it work from the free